I do know that is not correct.
Okay.
Why is that? Why can that not be correct? That the friction acting on B is that way and the friction acting on A is that way?
Because it's same ramp.
Not for that reason.
Because they're being held by a stretchless rope,
And
therefore there's no friction.
oh no. Let's assume that there is friction. Now it is possible if the masses and the angles are just right, there'd be no friction, but let's just assume that there is friction here. What's the direction of friction?
Opposite of desired.
Opposite to what?
Desired.
Okay, desired motion. So if it's going this way on B, which way is B's desired motion? Okay, so if B is going down and it is a stretchless rope, which way is A gonna go? So which way would friction be acting on A? I think there were hand gestures for it, but yeah, it'd be going that way. So if the friction on B is this way, the friction on A is that way, and vice versa. Now, which way is it actually acting on B and A? I did not give you enough information. Because depending upon the masses and the angles, it could go either way. So in a problem this big, I would have to give you another piece of information. I have to tell you which way that it wants to go. So if I said it wants to go this way, so this is the desired motion, indicating A wants to move up and B wants to move down, then we have friction going this way, so F sub B, F sub D, and then did not give myself enough room there. Oops. Just said don't do this. F sub A, F sub A. Now we will get to the point where you will be able to analyze it, you'll come up with the numbers and you will figure out which way it wants to go. But until then, I would have to tell you. Questions to hear? Now I know what you're thinking. You're going, the Maxwell ramp problem looked really interesting. Could we make it slightly more complicated looking? Well, yes. Yes, we can. So let's do it. I meant to do it before I did that one, but thus is the nature of my head. Ramp. Now I have ramp as a separate object from the ground. Separate the objects. Put in a checklist. Gravitational force first. I think that it's always my go-to. Not everyone likes doing that one first. So, weight of box. Weight of box. Weight of ramp. Weight of ramp. All right. I took care of that one for you. What's next?
Normal force
All right, which way is normal force acting on what?
would be acting up and to the right on the box. And down and to the left on the ground.
Ooh, on the ground?
Or
The ramp?
on the ramp, yeah.
All right. What else? There is another pair.
up on the base of the triangle.
Y sub R. And,
Down on the ground.
all right, those are done. No other notation. All right, so friction. Which way is friction acting on the box?
Up and to the left.
And then down the ramp. All right, and just another bit here. One of the requirements for there being friction is that there's contact. And contact is also a requirement for normal force. And so, more specifically, friction can only exist where there's a normal force pair. So I have a normal force between box and ramp, so friction might exist there. I will not have, if there's no normal force in a particular area, there will not be a friction. So normal force is a necessary condition for friction. All right, and then there's friction between two other surfaces. Which way is friction acting on the ramp from the ground? If I have a wedge here and I put a mass on it, which way does the wedge want to move?
That one.
Therefore, which way is friction? Ramp. Now, this is a far more difficult problem than the ramp not moving, or the ramp being attached to the ground. So, I don't think we ever do this one with math. Anyway, questions, because we're about to do a test level problem. And I will tell you, one of the last problems on the second test will be a problem of the same difficulty as the one we're about to do. Same ease as the one we're about to do, whichever way you want to look at it. I need some room. Oh, any questions before yours? Let's wait for the chair instead. All right. Do not try this scenario. This scenario, the physics, yeah. They are accelerating to the right. You accelerate to the right by pulling the stick straight backwards. So the stick is, we'll make this Gerog and Endro. Endro is going to pull the stick straight back horizontal to the ground. Four-wheel drive. Ideal rope. And that's a box sitting on top of the back of this truck. Now, this is the type of thing where I would need to separate it for you so that it becomes clear what are different objects. Same stuff that we're going through. Got the checklist. Which one should we start? With which one should we start?
Gravitation.
Which one? Yep, it's all louder, sorry.
Gravitational.
Okay, so we'll do that one first. Acting on which object in which direction? On which object in which direction?
On the board down.
All right, so we've got the weight of the board. And then up on the ground.
I'm on the guy.
On Gerog.
Gerard.
Sorry, didn't give you a chance to mess up there. Again, the other part of the force is on the ground, not on the board.
Down on the box.
See, I'm using B for that, so how about if I do W sub X?
Down on the car.
I can do T for truck. But whatever subscript you need to. All right?
Down on the chair.
C for that.
And down on Edra.
That is a G there. So I print that. Nope, that doesn't do anything. It's still supposed to be a G. All right, we've taken care of all the small objects. We have the counter, the other part of that pair acting on the ground. Say I got 1, 2, 3. I have 6 pairs, so done. Which one next?
Normal force.
Which one?
Normal force.
Okay. Acting on what objects in which direction?
Be acting up on the board and down on the ground.
So I've got Y sub D and Y sub D. Okay.
Up on Jarek and down on the board.
Garog.
Garog.
Up on Garog and down on.
The board.
Okay.
Up on the truck and down on the ground.
Y sub T. Y sub T.
Up on the box and down on the truck.
Y sub X. Y sub X.
Up on the chair and down on the truck.
Up on Edro, down on the chair.
There's one more pair. I will say the last pair of normal forces is when I've done problems similar to this, is probably the most common one missed.
Does that have to do with the rope?
No, now in terms of rope, is that a normal force or a tension? Tension is sort of a catch-all phrase. I don't know how it's actually attached here. If I have an eye hook and the rope is tied to that, that would be a normal force. If I have the rope sort of lodged in it like that, in which case it would be friction. So, because I didn't tell you how it's connected, that's what we're lumping into tension. I think there's a video I do of tension does not exist or something like that, where I talk about that in more detail. But there is one more point of contact.
Is it Edro and the truck?
Where?
The hand.
Somebody said it?
The hand.
On-
Where he's the
That-
steering
Stick.
wheel. Yeah. Stick.
All right. Which way is the normal force acting on his hand or on the stick, either one?
Up and to the left.
Up and to the left, so that way? That's up and to the, up and that way.
Yes.
So it's, okay.
The normal force.
That's acting on his hand or on the stick?
It'd be acting on his hand from the stick.
So, as he's pulling towards himself, his hand wants to slide down the stick?
Slide up. His hand would want to slide up the stick.
So up that way on his hand? Or what, you said, I got
You're
lost
saying his
here.
hand would want to slide. If he's pulling the stick towards himself, his hand would want to slide up the stick.
Okay, therefore the friction acting on his hand is,
That comes down to the right.
oh, that, we skipped over the friction just then. So friction is acting this, let's see, it's acting that way on his hand, and therefore that way on the stick. Which way is the normal force acting? Can't have friction without normal force. I can have normal force without friction, but like if I have friction there, I got a normal force acting which way? Which way and on what? So that direction on
His hand.
force, H for hand, and then that way. Yeah. If the stick is not there, as he's pulling towards himself, the stick's not there, there's nothing to slow his hand down. His hand would just come straight towards him. The stick is interfering with his hand's movement, so the stick is pushing against it. Now, the normal force is still perpendicular to the surfaces of motion, but the stick is interfering, so the stick is trying to push his hand away. All right, normal force done. What about other
Doesn't exist.
tension?
Between the.
Ooh, I left something off of this. I forgot the rope. All right, now the rope's in place. Tension?
Between the box and the rope.
Which way is it acting on the box?
Pulling, so
The volume is fading on my hearing, so one or the other. Or both, I guess. That way?
Yes.
So. All right, so I got a tension acting that way. Which way is it acting on the rope? That.
Opposite to the right.
The biggest mistake I see here is I've drawn the separate diagram, and some people, when they do that, they know that they're pointing towards each other, but if I have the rope here and I have the box here, is to point them like that. That Yes, they do point towards each other, but not like that. It has to be in the direction based upon the original problem. Okay, are we done with tension? Okay,
Between Garrott's and going.
and which way acting on the hand?
Up and to the right. And then down to the left on the road.
If you want to put subscripts, as Jacob wanted to do earlier, these two would have the same subscript. These two would have the same subscript. But it's a single ideal route, so we don't have to, it's gonna be the same tension throughout. So tension done. Now friction, if we've done everything else correctly up till here, I know that I only have to look whether there's normal force to know if there's even question whether it's friction or not. So how about between board and ground? I got a normal force pair there, got my YBs. Which way is friction acting on what?
Reacting to the left on the board.
And
To the right on the ground.
okay,
And that's because you told us we're moving to the right.
accelerating to the right.
So,
If we're accelerating, well, we'll get into that in just a moment. Okay. What about between Edro and Charon? Let's do Charon car, or Charon truck. If it were frictionless between the